personally.
Welcome to another discussion on politics and what's happening in our nation. Got a good group of folks around me that we're going to just have a discussion. I think a lot of the issues we will talk about today are what you're talking about in your living rooms or wherever you're at and wherever you're watching. We all want to know some answers to the issues that we face. And I want to introduce my team. I think as we go on, we'll have an opportunity to discuss who they are, but they're all television professional, business professional, workers, citizens, just like all of us. And we all have the same concerns that our country, democracy is at risk. There are a lot of things happening here and there that concerns us. And I believe one of the biggest issues that I'm struggling with is President Granger has a character flaw. He acts that he's concerned about the Constitution, he acts he's concerned about the country, but at the end of the day, he's making decisions doesn't fit with the Constitution.
Yes, well, I agree with you, Peter, and thank you for having us here today, and welcome to those who are watching us live on air. I think the president himself is operating in a time that is inconsistent with what is the reality today. He came out of an era where the PNC dominated the economy, and the world economy at that time facilitated or turned a blind eye to his type of rule, or the type of ruler that existed at that time. And he's grown accustomed to it. He embraced it, he likes it, and fundamentally, the PNC never had a model for development. The way they inherited government was flawed, even though encouraged, and they maintained that same model coming into government in 2015. So they did not change their model for government. So they do not understand how to govern. So they play the race card, which they continue to play. I actually call them the RCC group, racism, corruption, and crime. And if you notice, they're shying away a little bit from the corruption and crime mantra, and they're focusing on racism because they really want to get into the minds of the people and manipulate the people, especially
so
black people.
70s, 80s mentality.
Yeah. So they're trying to dope black people like myself into believing that the savior for black people in Guyana is the PNC, and we have to save black people from a wicked PNC regime. But if black people are smart enough, which they are, they would realize that it is not fair to them as well. And this government is not serving their interests. They're an elitist arrangement that they have in place where they're looking after only a very small group of people. So they've never adopted a model of development for the entire nation, like what the PAP has done coming into office in 1992 for the 23 years that the PAP has been in office.
Just to interject a piece there, when you talk about their style of running the country and the economy, what we know what happened was when they were, the PNC was in power, what happened was and in 1992 when the PP took over, 153% of revenue went to servicing debt.
Yes.
And the economy was just like 30 million US dollars.
Yes.
As opposed to in 2015 when they took over, was 4% of revenue to service debt. So it went down significantly. Yes. And then you had an economy which was 4 billion US dollars. And of course, we know what's happening now. They've run down the gold reserve,
draining
the treasury, just spending all the time, and they're spending. It's not something that's benefiting us as Guyanese.
Exactly.
No jobs for the youths, nothing in terms of significant investment or investors coming in.
Exactly.
But our money is just being spent on useless things, travel. They've increased dietary by 1.6, and these are all things that the viewers will be familiar with. These are not, newer revelations. I'm saying it's just things that you've heard and know about before.
And just to add to that, as you said, they're accustomed to operating in the 80s, and I think President Granger's mind is stuck there. Where we only had Burnham coming over the radio. You didn't have television and you didn't have social media platforms. And people like us who are here to correct the record, they seem to take it for granted that people can just do a simple search online and get the facts for themselves.
Yes, exactly.
Like we had the GS last week with the maps. When he comes to speak to people, Mr. Jaggio, he comes with his facts. He came with his maps. Trevor Ben went to the podium and the papers said that he refuted the claims, and yet all he did most of the time in the press conference was just to talk about how efficient lands and survey is being run and what technology they have. Yet he couldn't produce a single piece of evidence to back up anything that he was saying.
But Granger can't divorce himself from all that is happening around him. In
No,
fact, he
he
never
can't.
apologized to the nation for breaking the Constitution by appointing Patterson.
No.
And now,
No, because he hasn't even accepted that he broke the Constitution, because he
Yes,
keeps saying
yes,
everything
yes,
we do,
yes.
we're acting in compliance with the Constitution,
Yes.
which is why I think, Peter, that it's deliberate. Everything he's doing is
So how
is
could you trust a
very
man like
deliberate.
that simply breaks the supreme law of our land?
Well, that's where it comes. Immediately after every judgment, once it doesn't suit them, they say, "Oh, we're in compliance. We're going to adhere to it," and then they go and do the opposite. Coming back with the same appointment of Patterson, the CCJ ruled. We all know how they ruled that it was flawed. It was appointed unilaterally. It was flawed, unconstitutional, therefore null and void. And then immediately after, the statement of the president was that, "Oh, if my appointment of Patterson was wrong, then the CCJ needs to tell me why it's wrong."
And,
Right.
and picking up on Steve and Susan's comment, citizens have to understand that the PNC has always believed that they were above the Constitution, right? And they were above the law. So they created a framework where they were going to administer and direct the nation, but not to be subjected to the Constitution. And if you look at their actions and inactions, it does not differ. So for them to have to adhere to the Constitution, something that they've never had designed in their model and in their minds and in their ideology, they find it very difficult now to comply. And that is why you see the pushback from the president, because they've never accepted that, even though they would have had to swear on the oath that they're going to uphold the Constitution, the very same thing that they said they're going to uphold, right? They're disregarding, because that is the nature of the party itself, because they believe in party barbarency, where the party is above everything else.
But they've gone even further. I mean, it's blatant lies now. We're talking about house to house. People are not going to be on the list. You
Delaying
can't
tactics,
vote.
yes.
You know, it doesn't make it. That's overdoing it now. You're lying to the nation.
And the rest of the world.
And
Because-
embarrassing us.
Yes,
They're
because
embarrassing us as a country.
yeah, because people are talking about Guyana as a whole. They're not speaking directly to the president and the government. They're talking about Guyanese citizens as a
Right.
whole. This is how you guys behave. What is going on? How we've moved so far in terms of our democratic values, and we're going back to a system where it does not function. And there's a disconnect. They do not care because it doesn't affect them. The people who really feel the brunt of their actions are the ordinary people, the people that the PPP Civic has always been devoted to. They're affecting, and that is why you're finding people across the entire nation are coming out and pushing back. And if you looked at the numbers at yesterday's rally, you look at the demographic and you can see it's affecting everyone. The opposition is not there to look after the interests only of their supporters, but the entire nation. And we focus heavily on policy, practice, and procedure. This government, it's about race. If you look at the two, you can see clearly, and citizens are wise enough to understand that something doesn't add up.
But as a voter, if you voted for APNU, you know, if you did out there in 2015, and all these promises, you know, watch what's going on today, why would you even want to think of voting back? You know, I think David Hines from WPA said he's representing Africans or something, and they ought to they should vote. I saw Joe Hamilton, who's an Afro-Guyanese, said he's not speaking for this African.
No.
And
Neither myself.
I'm glad you brought up David Hines, because he had a meeting in Buxton, I think it was yesterday, himself and his daughter, who's the new Minister of Public Service, I think. And they're, you know, it's so funny because he's telling the 15 people who were there that, you know, what is this thing? What are y'all vexed about? That's how he's talking to the people, you know. And he said, you know what? If you vex with APNU, vote for WPA. If you vex with WPA, vote for AFC. You know, that's the beauty of a coalition. I mean, in the audience, they laughed because, that's what Guyanese would say. That is I pass.
Yes, it is.
Because what has the WPA done for its supporters, if it has any? What have they done for their supporters? They have no voice in the coalition. So how can you sit there and tell people to support you when you have no voice in this party? The AFC has lost their voice too.
Yes.
So, who do you want these people to support?
But the economy, I mean, if you just base it on economics, every person is suffered, basically.
Yes.
Your disposable funds are down, taxes are higher. I mean, I looked at my Blaze bill the other day, we're paying VAT on trying to get just data.
Yes.
Why does government has to charge me for being able to contribute back to, my research, my work, whatever it may be?
It's good that you brought that up, because I recall before they came into office, they campaigned on a promise to free university education. But I know you're from the campaign on that free university education for everyone. We're going to give you jobs as soon as you finish the University of Guyana and elsewhere and stuff like that. And immediately from assuming office, what they did was place VAT on education.
Yes.
I was one of the persons studying at that time, doing my master's at a private institution, and they placed the VAT on private education. So I was one that faced a lot of hardships, having to work, having to have to pay this extra cost just to get an education. I was instrumental in some of the protests and picketing the office of the president and other places, along with some other students, to get that removed. And we had a meeting with the Prime Minister, and he's like, coming back to your point that they have no voice, like, oh, well, we tried, but we can't do anything. So it just goes to show
I
that
was in that process.
Yeah,
6 weeks.
I
I stood, outside there on breakdown protesting against that. And that is the proof that they fail to realize. When they do things like that, that is the proof that they don't care about the ordinary people in this country. And if you can put VAT on education and you can put it on water and all these things, they don't care about people. Removing the school children voucher. That is the proof that anybody, any reasonable, right-thinking person, they can look at what this government has done and they know that there is no plan. Where is the plan? Peter, have you ever seen any minister or Mr. Granger himself come out there and lay out a plan? Even for 5 minutes, speak to a plan.
But they wrote something called the Green Strategy that says it's 2040 they'll figure out. And in the 2040 strategy, Granger will probably be dead and gone by then, is that there was nothing in there about what you're going to change and do about no metrics, no plans, no measurements.
And the reason why they are very irresponsible is because if they were prudent enough, they would have seen that the legacy of the People's Progressive Party was solid. We had the LCDS strategy, we had the competitiveness strategy, right? We've had all of the major projects, the Milo Fall, the Marriott, the airport, all of those projects were there and designed through broad consultations to move and lift Guyana. But they do not want to give credit to the People's Progressive Party, and through ignorance and given the fact that they do not understand how to run a country, they are just bungling everything. You have to understand, and the people of Guyana needs to understand, this government is about power and control.
Okay.
That is the only thing they understand.
Immediately they had the salary increases.
Right.
I mean, between Granger and Nagamutu, it's about 20 cars that drives them down the road.
Pump and ceremony.
I mean, even President Burnham, I grew up there, he had 2 outriders in 1 car. Granger's got like 14 cars just for himself.
And that's deliberate. That is to instill fear, right, and show that where the authority is. So don't even think about going against us, because we are in power. We're going to be in power forever. And the optics, they're setting the optics to drive fear and to intimidate the population.
Yesterday, I want to bring it up. Yesterday we were out protesting for democracy, for the right of our constitution, the right for elections, and we're on the road peacefully, and about 18 policemen with horses clapping, not going slow, riding right to intimidate us.
Yes.
I mean, it was, you had to get out of the way. A horse run over you is worse than probably a truck.
Yes.
But that's intimidation.
It is.
Just to come back quickly to the house thing that I think Susan mentioned earlier. There's a lot of misinformation being peddled out there. I think as the opposition, but more so as a Guyanese, we need to educate people more as to or to dispel this falsehood that is being peddled. The president himself said that the list is, as he called it, bloated and corrupted and have over 200,000 incorrect entries. I don't know which person or where he got this maths from, but there's the figure he quoted.
They're not good at math.
Well,
and they didn't say anything with that in 2015 or
Right.
two
The list
elections
that they won
afterwards.
on.
Yes.
But what I'm getting at is that they keep telling young people, especially, that the ones they turn 18 as of 2015, they won't be able to vote, which is completely untrue. Because what GCOM does, or what the law allows for, is for continuous registration, which we had continuously from 2015. We had 10 cycles of continuous registrations up to October last year, 2018. All those persons would have been registered, and then you had claims and objections. We produced a list, we went to elections with that list. And what that does is the continuous registration is used to update the NRR, the National Register of Registrants.
Yes.
So once you're 14 and above, you're automatically eligible to be placed on that list. So you go on that list. And from that, you then extract and get a preliminary voters list. So I think people are getting it confused, is that, oh, I wasn't registered or I won't be on the voters list. But once you have an ID card and you're on the NRR, automatically when you meet 18, when they're ready to extract the preliminary voters list, and then you go to claims and objection, your name is put over to that list. And they keep peddling this falsehood.
No, and I think it's probably what one of their supporters told me. It's a fair tactic for one. They know they will lose, so they're trying to set the stage up that, you know what, we said this, we now lose, the list was bad, which we know the list is
You know, and
clean.
it's very important that Steve brought that up, because a lot of people are getting carried away with these rumors. Yesterday, the PNC had a press conference chaired by Valda
And she was the one that
Nicolette
says only jobs for PNC supporters.
Yes,
she's
the
right.
one.
And this is her first press conference, I think, since becoming chairman of the party, which is like, it's been a year. And, you know, she said that the claims and objection period cannot do what Steve was just talking about. And that is a total lie. It's
But the
an
CEO
absolute
of
lie.
GCOM, Mr. Lowenfield, in February said claims and
Yes,
objections.
last year
is
they
a-
actually put out a statement
Yeah.
to that effect, which was in circulation. I saw that.
And the overarching issue here is the fact that if we looked at President Granger's actions and how he dealt with GCOM and the selection of the chairman, we can see clearly that they knew that this is the entity they needed to have total control over, because this is the machinery that will drive the process into elections. So they wanted to ensure that they had that covered. And that is why he moved in that direction in unilaterally appointing a GCOM chairman that would have been supportive or sympathetic towards the government. And we've seen all of the actions coming of GCOM. And GCOM should have been more independent, it should have been more responsible, because the taxpayers are paying for the upkeep of GCOM. And they have a responsibility not to a party, but to the citizens of Guyana, to inform them and to let them understand what are their rights and how they're being protected using this independent body. And GCOM has failed the nation terribly. This never existed under the People's Progressive Party administration. Why should it happen now? And people are not stupid. They know clearly that we had several election cycles under the People's Progressive Party using the same Carter formula, using the same model that exists today. So what is wrong? So if you go behind a system or institution, there is a person or persons. And you need to get to those persons to understand if they're upholding the same values that they should be upholding. And we saw clearly that Patterson was violating all of the norms and rules that existed previously under the People's Progressive Party.
Did any of you guys happen to catch that press conference yesterday?
For
The PNC
No,
press
no,
conference. Well, I suffered through the hour because, you know, I wanted to hear what they were talking about, because we have to listen to them to know, you know, how to refute them on their lies. And, you know, I was cringing the whole time that they were speaking, because their incompetence was on full display. You know, Valda came out and she read from a prepared speech, and she only took questions related to that. So one of the reporters said, you know, as Minister of Health, can you answer this question? And the moderator said, no, she can't answer
you're
that.
not allowed to
So
answer
you're not
that.
allowed to ask that. When our general secretary is at his press conferences, he can talk for an hour and then he can take questions. You can ask him anything, and he would be able to answer you. And it's the same with us. We're on programs every night of the week. We take calls. We can speak to the people out there. People can know what's going on, what our plans are. You never know what their plan is because frankly they don't have one.
But impending lies. I mean, you got to conclude. I mean, what Balder said yesterday
Lies and
was a blatant
misinformation.
lie.
Yes.
Lie.
You
cannot-
don't expect that from somebody in
Yes.
her position. So that's why it's so hard to get.
But
this over
that's
to people.
where when I talk with APNU supporters, I mean, they understand the reality of life. This is, you don't have to like a political party 100%, as some people may say, but you vote for what you believe is going to best take care of your family and the country, and that's the decision all of us are going to be placed in very soon. We've got to make that decision, and the fact that you are suffering and the tax system is burdensome to you, businesses are not doing well. What happens?
Yes.
You've got to go back to past performance. Now, the PP can show in the past they left a very healthy economy.
Yes.
Yeah, as I mentioned the
Yeah.
figures earlier, when they took over in 1992, it was just 30 million, and they left 4 billion with them. And they're putting us back there again, where we racking up.
So this has nothing to do with race, and it has to do who best can manage the nation.
When you watch CNN and they interview ordinary folks, they say, I'm a registered Republican, but I voted Democrat. Or I'm a registered Democrat, but I voted Republican. Why can't we do that here? Vote on people, vote on issues, vote on policy. Look at the party that has the plan. Forget about what you heard about in your childhood or what your parents voted for. You come out there as young people. Come out there, look, go on Facebook, go on our website. Look at what the plan is or the plans are, and judge for yourself. Not what other people are saying or what your friends.
And that's what
vote
we
for.
saw yesterday at the protest. The fact that there was a diverse group of people. Some of them may not have been PPP supporters, but they're fighting for democracy and the right for a constitution to be upheld.
Yeah.
And one of the questions we have to ask ourselves too is the fact that why is the PNC always hiding behind the cover to emerge victorious in any elections? If we go back to the 1968 elections when they coalesced with the UF, and you look at what ensued coming afterwards, they were a very irresponsible opposition. They always used disruptive tactics to create fear and to intimidate the citizens of Guyana while in opposition. And if you look at what's going on now with them in power, you find that they hid behind the umbrella of APNU, right? They pulled along a very opportunistic party along with them, which was the AFC, who wanted power as well, just like them. And now you're seeing them emerge as in their true color. This is the nature of the PNC. They've never been up to any good. They've never been able to run this country, and they will never be able to run this country if they remain in the same mode. What we want is a party that is responsible, that is progressive, and that has the needs of the people of this nation at heart. Right? And because we're not getting that from the larger political party, we are stymieing growth and development in this country. Because on the one hand, we have the People's Progressive Party, that is a very progressive party that pushes for development and to move people out of poverty into the middle class and persons from the middle class into the upper class, and to allow people to enjoy wealth and prosperity. On the other hand, you have a political party that is bent on disrupting a nation. How would that be good for the future of the young people and the unborn? People have to understand that they've never been able to lead this nation.
Yeah, I want to bring up a very sensitive issue, because yesterday the chairman of the AFC, Raphael Trotman, basically told the audience that God elected the APNU AFC, and God gave oil 3 days before they came into power, and God will re-elect them again. I'm a son of a preacher. Sam is a God minister. When I listen to somebody using God's name in vain. I mean, you learn as growing up in church. I mean, we all have different religious views, and that's one thing I like about the PPP. I mean, we're a diversified group. We have many different religions. We respect each other, but at the end of the day, our focus is for a better Guyana. But to listen to Mr. Trotman try to induce his audience with God, that God elected them, so God must re-elect them again. He's very disillusioned. I mean, I hope he's not going to church tomorrow Sunday and giving a sermon of that nature. God believes in all of us. You know, if you believe in that, working towards the betterment of yourself. And
just to lend to that and what you were saying earlier, the government is basically hanging on by the finest of threads. They're just hanging on for the perks of office and for the money. And what's happened? I recall in 2015 when President Ramsaroop broke Parliament, and this was a comment on Facebook. Someone put up there when I posted some photos of the protest yesterday. It's like, oh, where were you guys in 2015 when the Parliament was prorogued? Why didn't you guys want election? And I think people don't want to understand, I would say, because we've explained this on many occasions. The prorogation of the Parliament and what took place then was provided for by the Constitution. We are currently...
And was accepting the fact that we have to have elections.
And then Mr.
Right
Winter was advocating all over the place, saying that, oh, he's going to write for international sanctions on Ghana and all these things, and we become a pariah state. And this was provided for by the Constitution. Now, what we have here now is that we've wasted, since December 24th, we had a no confidence motion validly passed. Everybody accepted, including the president, the prime minister, the same night accepted that yes, we've defeated, or we have to go to elections. The president the next day, then suddenly someone came up with some maths that, oh, it's 34, blah, blah.
You know, that lawyer, I want to bring it up, that lawyer never apologized to the nation for that. He disappeared.
And I wanted to go back to your sensitive issue, Peter, about using God, or getting God into politics. The minister would know too that if he read the Bible extensively, that God would lift up governments and God would take down governments. He should try to figure out if that's not what's happening to them, because we're all children of God, and God loves each and every person on earth. What he dislikes is when he put people in place to take care of his people when they violate that. And if you look at what the PNC administration is doing to the people of Guyana, they're actually misleading them. God dislikes that. God believes in hard work, dedication, and the rule of law. They need to understand that. He believes in the rule of law because he has laws. Whichever God you serve, there are laws. And if you have the laws of the land and you don't obey that, you can't call on God. Because God will say to you, if you're not obeying the laws of your own land, why are you calling upon me?
Yeah, so I disagree with the fact that he's trying to bring religion in the middle of
sad.
it. And emotional people are very sensitive to that, and it's a wrong thing for him to do. Government is illegal.
He has nothing else to go on. What else is he going to do?
And he's appealing to the Christian population, because you have to understand that they try to keep the Christian population from integrating. Right? Guyana is a multi-ethnic society. Right? For us to get along, we have to integrate.
And we respect each other.
And we have to respect each other's religion.
Yes.
Religion across the world is one common thing, one common thread, right? Which is love and respect for humanity. So it doesn't matter which God or which gods you serve. At the end of the day, you're judged based on how you treat mankind. And if they're not treating the citizens fairly, then they need to go. And you can't call on God for that. So, Minister, please stop it.
I think Trotman needs to be reminded that the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh. So, all the best.
You made a very important point, Justin, when you said there's nothing else for them to go on, because as we all know, they've broken every promise they made.
No, it's race and religion.
And there's nothing left for them to... As we've constantly said on various other platforms, is they can't go to the youths and tell them, oh, we're going to give you jobs. They can't go to the poor people and say, the cane farmers, for example, or the rice farmers and say, oh, we're going to give you $9,000 a bag for paddy, as was promised before, and oh, we're going to raise your salary, because they sent 7,000 of them home and plan to close their estates, and they closed several estates and stuff like that. So there's nothing left for them to tell the nation other than, oh, God wants us here, that's why we're here, and you should respect that and stuff like these kinds of
Because
nonsense.
if you had over 4 years to do something meaningful for this country, you shouldn't even have to campaign. You shouldn't even have to be constantly refuting claims or anything in the media. You should just be pointing to the things that you have done since taking office. Show us the change,
Yes.
the positive change we're looking for. There's been none.
And
So we're in unknown
Yeah.
territory right now because you've got an illegal government.
Exactly.
Every contract, every land distribution, whatever it may be, is illegal. And
But they have to convince people because they have to tell them with words because they haven't shown them anything. People know the hardships, they can feel it. So when people come to listen to them speak, they can't get anything but that, but
Yes.
to be made to feel guilty.
And added to that, the fact of the matter is that this government does not have a record to go on, period. Right? So it's just their only aim right now is to create disruption, fear, and try to hang on to power as long as they can, hoping that they can convince persons who voted for them in 2015 to give them a sympathy vote. But that is not going to work because after 4 years you have not delivered on any of your promises, and people are seeing you gallivanting around the world, enjoying a lot of ceremonies, and not being able to come back and say, well, look, we made some travels and this is what we're going to do to uplift your lives and livelihood. You can't complain anymore. Just go to elections and try to get another mandate. That is how democracy works. You
And
cannot hold on to power forever.
And international pressure is on too. I mean, the U.S. ambassador said, the corruption is very rampant. I mean, she's speaking on behalf of President of the United States, Donald Trump, that says, you've got a burdensome tax system.
Yes.
And those are powerful statements. Even the British and their companies are afraid now to come in again because it's an illegal government. They're telling them don't sign any contracts. That was in one of their statements.
In fact, the U.S. report for the first time ever on crime and drugs in Guyana said that they listed government corruption, specifically using those words in 2018. Government corruption is one of the main factors of money laundering and the situation in Guyana. And just to lend to what you were saying, that's precisely what you were explaining is why they're so afraid of going to election. That's why they're hanging on, as I was mentioned earlier. By the thin of thread, the cabinet is illegal, as we all know. The government remains in place in a limited capacity just to hold an election for 3 months. But they treat it as business as usual, in full disrespect of all the courts and all the rulings that we've had. And see Mr. Harman, Director General Harman of the ministry, saying that, we will continue to have cabinet until the CCJ gives us direction. But what direction do you need?
But the CCJ already ruled.
Exactly.
In fact, the Constitution then takes precedent.
Yeah.
And that's a missing point all of us need to get. Is no longer your interpretation. The Constitution specifically states what should happen in a no confidence vote.
Yes.
Government must resign, election within 3 months. The court can't say anything different.
Yeah.
And they have to respect the ruling of the CCJ. I believe based on their actions, they're trying to send a signal as if there's some amount of interference going on here. So we have to keep double checking with them. Are they sure what they're saying? Because if the court is not ruling in their favor, then something is wrong. And that is the nature of the PNC. They're like a spoiled child. They want everything, but they can't deliver. So they just want to be in power, hoping that whatever happens, they can remain in power. But at the end of the day, they need a reality check. Somehow there's a disconnect between what they want and the reality of the situation. And the president needs to step up and say, listen, okay, let's just get this thing over with and done.
I don't expect him to do anything. I think he's failed the nation. He has showed his wares out there, and I don't believe he'll step up to the game of making the right decision. But switching gears a little, we've got an exciting election coming up. We've got a future Guyana to be part of. I've listened to Mr. Finale, the presidential candidate for the PP, talk about some real initiatives that the PP party plans to do. I'm excited. I believe we've got
Yes, we're all
a future to look
excited.
at.
Yeah.
Well, one of the very important thing, and I think all Guyanese are looking forward to this, is where he said that in the first 5 years of his term, he will create 50,000 jobs. As we know, we've already lost 30,000 jobs. People are on the breadline, and I recall just yesterday I was going through the papers and online, and I noticed that this young guy, common entrance, and congrats to all those who wrote the National Grade 6 exam and got passes. Young kid in Borbies, his father is a sugar worker, sack sugar worker, and now his father can't afford to send him to school. And that's just sad. I don't think that in 2019 that a country should go through this. A country that is on the cusp of producing oil, big things ahead, and the government is touting this, economy is going to grow, our GDP is going to grow by so much, 100%, but we still, how is that helping the people in the country currently? We still have kids that can't go to school, don't get 3 meals per day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they removed that subsidy.
I did the interview with Irfan on the cost of living issues, and he has a plan. He laid that out, for how he's going to create jobs, and we start by doing some of the very simple things that we did in the past, by reversing some of these tax measures and so on, removing the VAT on those 200 items that were placed that now attract VAT. So it starts with the simple things that we have done before, that we can prove that works. So people can look back at that. It starts with the simple things. It allows people to have a little more money in their pockets every month. I mean, it's hard. It's really, really hard for Guyanese out there, and I hear these stories every day when we go on the ground, we go meet people, we go house to house, sharing flyers, speaking to people, and people are very honest. And I know what it feels like, when a man can't buy his wife a present on her birthday or for Mother's Day, or they can't give their child that Christmas gift. This is real for people. People are really suffering, and this is 2019, and we should not be at a stage in our economy where all we want is food on the table. That is unacceptable in 2019. As a nation who's about to produce first oil, that is unacceptable, and that is how low this government has lowered the bar for people.
And picking up on what you said, Susan, and I've said this before, when the PNC was in office between 64 and 1992. If you look at coming into the latter parts of the 70s into the 80s, they controlled just about 85% of the economy, right? So everyone basically worked for the government. So they had massive amounts of power. So coming into power in 2015, they just couldn't figure out how to make things work, because they've never been in partnership with a private sector. So they saw the private sector as.
But you inherited a thriving economy.
Yeah, but
you didn't inherit a bankrupt economy like the PPP did.
They're
in
not that
1992.
smart. We thought that they had some amount of guidance and some amount of vision, but we recognize now that they really can't compete with the People's Progressive Party on ideas, on matters concerning development and how to grow an economy. So clearly they've sidelined the private sector. They tried to hurt the PPP in their constituency, which they did in closing the sugar factories, which actually affected a lot of blacks as well, because Cape Coders are not only Indians. So you had blacks that were affected too, right? And then all of the spillover effects that occurred. So they've really crushed lives of many ordinary people. So as the opposition leader said, we have to actually start putting people back to work and rebuild the economy, because we came out of a highly indebted and poor economy in 1992. We've built the economy, we've gone into the middle income level, and now we're suffering again. So
that's why I think
it's sad.
The PPP made the right choice by picking somebody of the generation that understands what life is all about today, and
without the baggage,
and the fact that these are some exciting plans that will take us into the next 5-10 years. This next decade is going to be an important decade for Guyana, and you want somebody. I listed Finale as the economist versus the historian. I can't wait for that election to happen, because Ranger lives in the 80s.
And the debates.
If any. Finale is a young, aggressive, passionate economist ready to put plans in place to help Guyana move forward.
And he's surrounded by people like us, who care about Guyana. prior to 2015, Peter, I had no interest in politics. I didn't grow up with my parents going to Freedom House, or I wasn't exposed to it. But like a young person watching on, I saw that this is the party with the plan, and so I stepped out. I came out of my shell and I said, you know what, I want to be a part of this. I want to take back Guyana, and I want to do something positive for Guyana.
And I think the party has expanded quite a bit over the last 4 years. I mean, very impressive.
What Susan mentioned is one of the things as me as well, because I didn't grow up in a political home. My parents don't discuss politics. In fact, there's today it's still shocked that I choose to get into join a party and stuff like that. But what happened was, prior I used to take politics for granted. You grow up in an era where the PPPs, everything is fine, you have money, disposable income, your parents are working, and life goes on.
Right,
and
they
then,
don't even bother with it.
and then these guys come into power, and then all of a sudden people are crying, the crime rate has gone up, you can't get food, transportation, prices keep rising for everything. And that's when I stepped back. I was like, I really need to look at this and stop taking things for granted.
Right.
So what I'm encouraging young people and what I'm getting at is that don't just look at, race or in that narrow vision. Just look at it. Who has the better policy? Who can carry us forward?
Yes.
Which party is better? And I think the General Secretary mentioned that the manifesto will be coming out sometime soon. So just before you make your decision, just take some time and read it through, compare, see which one is the better one.
But they got to be careful. The fact that APNU made a lot of these promises. The fact
and that was what I was getting at.
Did not deliver. So even when the PP puts in a plan that they'll create 50,000 jobs, if you look back at previous administrations,
look at the track
they
record.
did create 100,000 plus house lots. This government has given zero. So even if they promise you 100,000 house lots in the next 5 years, they can't deliver.
In fact, what they've done is that they've taken back lands, and someone mentioned about the lands. They've taken back lands from their own supporters and given it to these guys in the top brass of their party.
Yes.
For example, I recall reading in the newspaper that the lands that they gave out in Mocha were the same lands that the residents of Lombard Street went in and squatted on. And rather than regularize that area, what they did was they went and they moved them off with the police and then give it to these PNC bigwigs.
And there's a lot more on the land grabbing going to come out. This is not the opposition leader exposed a few. There's quite a bit more, even things on the oil. I mean, it's shocking for what these guys have done over the last couple months.
It was this government that went into Sophia to move the squatters and break down their homes. With people inside and children inside, and those are predominantly their supporters. They don't care. They say that they care about black people or they care about this segment of society. They don't. They really, and their actions speak louder. Now we can go into Sophia. I can go into Sophia and walk on those dams, and people welcome me. People shake my hand, people talk to me. They're very receptive. And you know what? Even if they can't vote for the PPP, they say to you plain, I'm certainly not supporting the coalition ever again. I'm staying out, or however they feel comfortable. But what is for sure is that this government has lost their support.
Yeah, in another 5 years, even if you were thinking of voting for the coalition, your punishment will be significant if you can't survive in these 4 years when you, as you said, these guys inherited a great economy, much less if you can't manage your oil money. And if you're not developing, I think in one of the interviews, Ms. Ali said, if you can't look at the other productive sectors, and if you don't take care of the other productive sectors, Guyana cannot grow. So these guys are dreaming about oil and gas when it's about all the other industries. If we don't make sure plantation, agriculture, rice, sugar, all these other industries, mining and gold survive, all of these timber is all down, all declining.
And Peter, before I get to that, I just wanted to get back to what Stephen and Susan said earlier. I did not grow up in a political home either. I grew up with two parents who were educators. But as you grow and as you are more integrated in your own society, you tend to be more aware and more conscious of what's going on. And if you want to remain in your own country, then you will have to have a voice. And if you believe that you can make a contribution, then you have to step up. Because if you sit on the sidelines and allow others to continue to dictate how you live and how you eat, then you're doing yourself a disservice as well as others who you can also help. So what we're doing here is basically trying to give a voice to the democratic process and to allow persons to also see that you yourselves can make a contribution. It doesn't matter which side you want to support, but once you're progressive and we're like-minded, we can lift this economy. Importantly, the People's Progressive Party Civic is a very inclusive political organization, and if you look at the political capital that the People's Progressive Party would have accumulated from the time they were established, especially between 1992 and 2015 when they were in office, you can see that it cuts across the entire nation, and there is no hierarchy. It's a relatively flat organization where any and everyone can be part of, and you can contribute at whichever level you're comfortable at. So I want to encourage people across Guyana, of all races, just to listen to us and to get to know the party, get to see what we can do for you, and try to embrace us. If you don't want to vote for us, that is not a problem, but ensure that whichever political party you want to support, that they share the values and the principles that can actually move this economy forward. And there's enough evidence out there for us to see, because it's really a two-party state. It's really the People's Progressive Party Civic and the PNC, sheltered by a few other smaller parties, but fundamentally it's really a two-party state to this day. And we have to let people understand that the door is open. The opposition leader said it, the door is open. You're free to come interact with us and get to know us, get to understand us, because what I've recognized is that a lot of people who don't support the PPP do not know the PPP. They just see the organization, but they don't try or open up their minds and hearts to interact with us. And if they do that, then they'll have a different perspective. And I think that is where we need to start. We need to start by interacting and getting to know each other, because we're all Guyanese and we all want to see people in Guyana prosper and live well and in harmony. And we are the party to do that.
Let us not take for granted what's going on here right now. I mean, people who are watching at home, you've just had 3 testimonials about people who were not so proactive in politics. In my case, not at all. You know, and you have different races here, you have different backgrounds. You know, when you look at the people in position today, you see one race. You know, and Guyanese want to, when they look at their leaders, that they reflect the population. Yes. You know, when you look at persons on the news or the people in positions, you want to see a mixed race. You want to see the diversity. In the People's Progressive Party, you can never feel judged for the color of your skin or your religion, yes, or whether you're male or female. You know, I came in young or old. You know, I came into this party and I found a home. Yes. You know, in this party, yes. I never felt discriminated. Yes, you know, it was amazing, and I got a second family because, you know, I spend most of my time, you know, with you guys, and, you know, even if we're not working, you know, we socialize together. It's a family, and you can be a part of it. And as a young woman, you know, my ideas are listened to. You know, I can speak, and I have the respect that I deserve, you know, and so I want to encourage young women out there too. You know, there is a place for you here. There's a home for you, and you're going to be a part of something really, really special, and a part of a group of people who truly have ideas on how to move this country forward. This is not just talk, but, you know, and also even if you join us, you can learn so much, you know, from the members of our party.
Yes. So as we wrap up. I mean, Steve, you have a show on television once a week, yes. MTV. Yeah,
MTV. This week in 60 Minutes is on every Wednesday night from 6:30 to 7:30, where we discuss similar topics, what's going on, what's happened in the past week and stuff like that.
As you wrap up, any comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to join with my other brothers and sisters here and tell the young people out there, just give us a chance, look at what we stand for, look at the track record. Do not fall for these transparent ploys that the government is involved in. Do not fall for the lies. Just go out there, read. There's a lot of information available, and especially on our Facebook page and stuff like that. We are constantly sharing information. Just go out there, educate yourself, and make a conscious choice, because definitely the PP is the party to take us forward in this very important time in our history when we're about to produce oil and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Susan, you're on Tuesday night too. Then.
Yes, I'm on Tuesdays, 9:30 to 10:30 on MTV, and I also stream live from the Facebook page, Making the Case. That's the name of my show.
And what would be your conclusion from your callers? What are they saying?
Well, look, it depends on the topics. I like the callers who call and challenge me, because it gives me,
Yes.
we have a nice session, and I can get to address some of the rumors and so on about the PPP. So I like those callers, and I appreciate those callers. And you know what? What I find is that my callers are very respectful. We have very engaging discussions. And we can do so on an intellectual level, and of course we have overwhelmingly positive callers who call in and offer me their support and encouragement. They're always happy to see new young faces, and so that I enjoy myself on that program.
You were the professor among us,
no,
and
I don't-
all young people all.
I don't have
all
a
the
program,
time.
but I usually,
You're seeing thousands of young people every day.
Yes, I usually sit in with Ed on Saturday nights when I'm available, and we've had some very good responses from either side, and we're actually excited when persons who are not in support of our political party call in to give their views, because we also want to hear the views of the other side, so that we can see how to tailor a message, and so that we can actually reach them as well, because it's important for us to take care of the needs of everyone, because it's a political party that is for Guyana and for every race, and I want to encourage especially the young black youths out there not to get confused, and don't allow the whole mantra of race to cloud how you see the political environment. Strip race away from it and try to get to the core of both political parties, and try to follow the ideas, thoughts, and the vision coming out of both parties, and then make an informed choice. And I can assure you that the People's Progressive Party Civic has a track record that we can defend. And we have to understand that the world is driven by numbers, not the maths that the PNC knows, but numbers that we can verify. And if you look at the stats, you will see that we have a track record that we can defend as compared to what the PNC has delivered on. They do not have a track record, and if you look at that, you can see that it's not a race issue, it's a competent issue. We have a competent group of people with ideas that understand how to move this economy forward, versus another political party, the People's National Congress, that is bankrupt for ideas. They're outdated, and they should not be given another chance to lead this great nation of ours. Peter?
I enjoyed our conversation, guys.
Yes, it was.
It was, yeah.
It was a pleasure being on your program.
No, but it's our program, and we have a great team ahead of us. We have a great, exciting time. We've got a lot to look forward under the leadership of our party, and I believe people will see the results. It is making practical decisions, as you said, and I think all of us are excited that Guyana has a future, and we have seen what the past has done to us. We expect the next level of our nation to take care of every one of us. So thanks for being part of us. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
And it's victory for all of us. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.